We all learn openings, but for some reason we still lose straight out of the opening. We've got the answer today. I will diagnose the problems you have and share a simple 3-step method that guarantees a successful opening. Let's dive in. So to begin with, most chess players prepare openings either too deep or too shallow. Either way, your opening repertoire isn't effective. Other people rely on the engine too much and do not really value the style of the opening. Thereby, my method will be efficient and compatible, giving you a reliable opening repertoire without too much effort. So in this 3-step method, first up, you need to prepare ChessBase 18 and Stockfish 17. I will not go deep into that, but once you come onto ChessBase 18, what you would do is to select this board icon here. So I'm using Chinese, but you would see that in your own application there's a board, so click on it, and once you get in here, what you do is you press Ctrl and Save, go here, name the file. Generally, I would advise you to write what opening you're preparing. Since I'm an English opening player with white, I'll do this. And the second step is to decide what you are going to prepare. In my case, I'm preparing against e5, the second move after c4. So I would write it here, and what I would do is I would save it in a database, and I generally name it opening prep with the date. Because over time, your opening prep is going to change, and sometimes the changes are dramatic, and you can't just use the same old openings again and again. So this is also very important. Once you save it, it's time to dive into the action. So in the first step, what you're going to do is actually go for a broad first search with Stockfish 17. What you basically do is that you start playing the moves, and you will get this response. You decide what move you are going to play, and you will get, let's say, the black move. After here, generally, there are some divergences in the moves. Some people play bishop c5. Some people play bishop e7, some people play c6, others play d5 directly. So what you're supposed to do right now is that you put these variations here and you go on with this line. Okay, so the line goes like knight d2, bishop e6, b8, knight e4, queen e7, queen a4, bishop e7, knight d5, queen e8, and here this powerful move b4. So what I'm showing you is a typical example of a successful opening preparation. What you would get is after this, you would have thought you lost a piece here, right? But actually, the brilliant move, queen d7, queen up, no matter which knight, both works. And after this sequence of moves, you can only get this with the Stockfish 17, this powerful engine. You take c5, and then you play rook e1. So the line ends here. And what you do is you put in this board over here, and this reminds you to study this position later, because this is basically a forced sequence from queen e7 after. So you would probably be guaranteed to reach this position, or you'll be significantly better. So what you would do after you save this board over here, you will come back and look at this position, study it with the engine, study it with games, you just keep it here. And back to that broad first search I mentioned. What you do is you go back in the moves until you reach the divergence. So once you reach the first divergence, you dive into that line. You go into h6, and again you start preparing your moves. And perhaps at some point, you diverge again. You do the same process over and over. Once you finish h6, you can consider like clicking here, it would minimize itself, and then you go back into the line again until you reach another diverge. You dive into that line again, and you keep on studying. This basically guarantees that you study every single line there are and cover the entire opening. So an important thing in preparing openings, this is very important, so listen in, is that you should look for similarities throughout your lines. For example, in this line, in h6, this line, after castles, b6. So what you should do when you're preparing openings is that you should look for both similarities and differences. For example, in this line, as we have seen, the idea used to be a3. And indeed, this idea still comes into work. But what you do here is actually e3 first. From the move h6, it is controlling the square, while this pawn is controlling this square. So this bishop basically doesn't go on this diagonal. Sorry, that bishop doesn't move there. The bishop doesn't go on this diagonal, so you close it down. And you prepare for d4, because this bishop is still in the center, ready to be targeted. That is a great example. But now, after rook e8, you can of course consider playing d4. It is, of course, a line. But personally, I go for a3 and b4 no matter what. And this actually brings us into a very interesting line after a5 and rook b1. As you would notice, rook b1 is not ideal, but after d5, it goes into tactical complications. And this is good news for you, because whenever you come into tactical complications, you're always on the upper hand because you've already seen this position, while your opponent did not. That means your opponent is basically guaranteed to make a mistake. And indeed here, if you look at the engine over here, it suggests e takes d4, very natural. But what I actually play in my openings is that I go for this crazy looking move, knight e5, for the simple reason that it is more tactical and more chaotic. For example, many people would just go like this, queen e5, and after b4, ab, knight b4, you would get e takes d4, bishop d6, and then bishop d2, targeting this knight. Most people wouldn't go knight e2, so you can look at this line, knight c6. After knight e5, you get queen d4, takes, here, looks like you're winning this. Your opponent is probably starting to panic right now. And after something like bishop g4, queen c2, bishop e2, you go for this. And you win back the king takes, rook takes. And again, you put this board icon over here. It reminds you to study this position later. And once you study it, you're just basically at a upper hand. in the steady equal position because you already know it, you have already played a few games with it, and that is just going to benefit you. So this is an example of great preparation. So in all, I would say a great preparation fulfills the following. First, a single line, for instance, English opening e5, it goes to a meta strategy that basically works for every line. So you see, for every single line, I choose this a3, b4 idea, and if a5, I go for rook b1. This is easy to remember, and with a similar strategy, even if you go into positions you don't know, you can still recognize this a3, b4 plan, and you can play it. And basically what you know is that it couldn't be that bad. And once you reach a familiar position that you might have already studied, it is going to benefit you. That is the first rule. And the second rule is always go for something tactical. I understand many of you enjoy playing more solid and positional chess, but in opening preparation, always go for these tactical lines because you can't just remember them. What you should actually do is to ensure that the result of this line is not tactical. Because after this crazy sequence, let's use this example. After this crazy sequence of sacrificing queens, capturing pieces, once you reach this position, this is actually very positional. And you have a clear plan of going down over here. You can double your rooks. You can take this pawn. The a8 square is always controlled by our bishop. So overall, this position is just better for you. And this is a great example of a tactical sequence leading to a positional position. And it's going to be good for positional players. For tactical players, of course, you can also choose lines that is very dynamic even after this insane line. And if you take care, you can always just go a few more steps in and ensure that you have a larger success possibility. And actually, I forgot to mention, once you finish a line and you mark this board icon over here, what you can do is put your mouse on the Stockfish lines and just click that right arrow on your keyboard and just look through the moves. You can get the idea. Basically, it's just infiltrating on the A file. You're trying to win a few pawns, use this rank as I've drawn, try to use this 7th rank. That's basically the game plan for you. And now you already know the game plan, you know the line, you're familiar with it, you're absolutely going to be more advantageous playing this line. This is the second rule. And the third rule is never forget any lines. So one mistake that I often do is, let's say I prepare this c6 line, I have already prepared something like d4, and for d5 lines, I've already prepared something else like c takes d5. I don't know, just these lines. Let's just say both these lines are prepared, and I might just forget that there's another bishop e7 line. And indeed, the second step of my opening preparation method is going to focus on that. So in the second step, what you do is go to the top line, make sure you expand every line so that it's not like this plus icon, make sure everything is a minus icon. You go from the top line and you press this down arrow. It's going to move you to the second line. And what you do is to go through these lines, and whenever you recognize a pattern, for example, I recognize that if bishop does not have access to g5, then close this diagonal down with e3. There's no need to keep it open, and e3 can support the center. This is what I'm going to write, and this kind of reminds you that you recognize the pattern, and this can help you understand and remember the lines better. So you can just keep on pressing this down arrow. Whenever you see something, you can write some annotations. Just go down until you finish the entire thing. This is the second step. And overall, after both steps has been finished, it will take around 1 hour to finish each file, and let me show you what you're going to get. So this is actually the beginning of my secret new round of opening prep, and let me just show you. This file is already finished, and you can see there's a ton of lines over here, all the way going down. I actually messed up the settings a bit, so what I actually should have done is adding some board icons here. I forgot to do that. And so actually, if you click open some of these moves, you will see that I've made annotations already, but this one doesn't have it. I messed up the settings a bit because I just basically restarted ChessBase 18 like a day ago, so it's still a bit messy, but overall, what you should get is a huge opening repertoire with annotations written in, with nice arrows drawn, like this one, and with boards to remind you to study these positions. And with that, you can be positive that whenever your opponent plays this line, that you are sure you would at least get a good position. And I would love to mention that sometimes a good position doesn't mean a better position on the viewpoint of evaluation. For example, I don't know if I can find it. It's kind of a lot. Yes, this line. So if you open the engine, after bishop f4 here, if you open the engine, I'm actually almost just 1 point straight down. But if you go on with my line, you will see that I'm getting excellent play. And for me, this is actually better, and there are some cool traps inside that can get you a better position. And look at this, I'm already winning. The bishop is falling, this rook is being attacked. I've got this, not the pawn. Oh, this pawn is running down the board. I've got this powerful bishop. The rooks are going to be pretty active, and the c7 pawn is basically impossible to defend in the future as well. So this gives you a great example of what your opening prep should look like. But all of these apart, there is actually a third step. So after you save everything, what you're going to do right now is that you should move on. What you should do is put the opening lines in action. So one kind is just logging on to Chess and playing a few games. Of course it works, but remember to review the games, very important. And the second thing is downloading games from online and using these games to study. So if you go back here, let me open this. You will see that in my downloads, I've actually got this. A lot of other PGNs as well. So if I open this, you will see the most recent Title Tuesday, and you can just sorted by ELO, and you can watch the games. So these games, they cover a lot of opening lines, and since this is split, you can see the opening ideas. Because if you're looking at classic games, it's just going to be a perfect opening, ensuring that you're better. But in Blitz, it's all about opening ideas and opening patterns. So you can look at these opening ideas, and what you can do is go to this little icon over here. Once you click on it, it's going to help you tell you to sort the games. Go to the fourth column. It's got an A behind it. Sorry. The third column, it's got a P behind it. It's probably position in English. And what you can do is to put in the position and search for it. Cool fact, you do not need to include every single piece on the board. You can search for basically anything. You just need to include the pieces that must exist in this game and just search it. And again, we sort it by ELO, and you can see the most highest rated games can reach 3200, which absolutely you should look at. Choose these games in which white won, since I'm preparing on the white side, and see how it wins. And indeed, you can also choose games that you lost to see how your opponent is probably going to counter your opening ideas. And if you're wondering how can I actually get these games, there's a cool trick. You go onto chess.com, and here you write tournament/live/Title Tuesday. I'll also include a link below. You can see here it's got Title Tuesday. You can just navigate to any one of them, click on it, and hit download over here. Of course, if one database is not enough, you can always go back and go down for like other matches, select them, and download again. Once you download, you just go into ChessBase 18, select this file button, and you can just load it in, just like I've already done. This is basically your 3-step process. This ensures that you have a solid, bulletproof opening repertoire. It ensures that you understand every line you have in it, so you can play the middle game process properly, and you have a lot of practice on these specific lines to help you get an upper hand when you're actually playing tournaments. So overall, I hope this helped you. I'm curious to know what openings you actually play. I would always be willing to explain those openings for you. If you actually think this video was good, consider liking the video and subscribing. I hope you win a lot of games after this. Enjoy your chess. See you. Peace until next time. Bye.